right, stand by.
Perfect. There we are. Okay. So we are now live on YouTube, everyone. We can go ahead and kick this thing off. Okay. So hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Government Coins. This is episode number 4, and today we are joined by someone at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Now, this is huge. I don't know if you understand how huge this is, being that Port Authority spends so much money with small businesses. Chrisley, would you mind sharing a little bit? Because this is actually in your area, in the New York area.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So guys, we join you today. We'll go through introductions. My name is Chrisley Julian. I am the founder of the Black Bunker, which is essentially our monthly master class reviewing the access of government contracts from a federal, city, and state perspective for minority-owned businesses. And I also have a human capital firm known as Chrisley G Consulting, where we focus on human capital analytics, data analytics to drive employee performance. Shakia.
Yes, and hi everyone. My name is Shakia Kegler. I am the founder and CEO of Govlier, which is a supplier diversity firm that focuses on outreach and software technology to streamline processes to increase the number of minority-owned businesses in the space. So it's super exciting. We decided to start this podcast to really dispel a lot of the myths around government contracting and to ease the discomfort that most businesses have as it relates to doing business with the government, and also put you in front of different buyers, different people who are in charge of large programs that are tailored towards small businesses. And today we have Dr. Keith Wright from the Office of Small Businesses. Dr. Keith, would you mind giving us a introduction for the audience?
Sure. I'm Keith Wright. I'm with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I serve in the role of Business Diversity Director. And while we'll talk about it in the next couple of minutes, my passion is really on increasing contracting opportunities for minority and women-owned business. That's why I get up in the morning. That's why I come to work. And that's why I'm happy to talk with both of you to introduce you and your audience to the work that is taking place at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
I am so excited to have you. So many who have worked with me or know me know that I am located in both New York and New Jersey, business-wise and living-wise, right? I have anyone that it's kind of like living in the DMV area. Same thing for New York and New Jersey. We're kind of a codependent states. And so I had already been registered as an MWBE with the city of New York. However, recently, because of just how efficient Port Authority has been, I'm now registered with the state through Port Authority, New York and New Jersey as an MWBE, a minority women-owned business enterprise. And actually just finished our DBE this morning and got our 30-day acknowledgement letter this morning. So, right? Very, very exciting. So what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Wright, is what are the goals? And I think it's great that you talk about your passion for inclusion as it pertains to minority businesses and women-owned businesses. But what are the goals that Port Authority of New York and New Jersey has as it pertains to MWBEs?
That's a good question.
Great question. Let me just set up for your audience who may not be with the Port Authority as you are. And when you mentioned DMV, I did spend almost 25 years there. I worked at the Port Authority in 1986 to 1992, and then I went to the DMV area, and now I'm back. But the Port Authority, for your audience, is a bi-state agency. It was created by act of Congress. Actually, we're celebrating our centennial year, so it was created in 1921. And when you think about the importance of the agency being created as a bi-state agency between New York and New Jersey, you just have to think about shipping lanes and docks and commerce coming into the area, and imagine people on the New York side and the New Jersey side trying to attract businesses and trying to increase lower prices, fighting over doing all types of things, and the chaos that could result in, okay, where does the merchandise end up? And so it was decided that there would be a bi-state agency that would regulate commerce and build world-class transportation infrastructure to allow the commerce to come into the region. And now we can function as a region. So when we talk about the Port Authority, we talk about our mission to keep the region moving. It's important for people to understand that what constitutes this agency is the Lincoln Tunnel, the Holland Tunnel, 5 airports, JFK Airport, LaGuardia Airport, Newark, Liberty Airport, Teterboro Airport, and Stewart Airport. There's also four bridges that many people use. In fact, the George Washington Bridge is the most highly traveled bridge in the country. That's a Port Authority facility, as well as Gothel's Bridge, Bayonne Bridge, and the Outer Bridge crossing. And just to top it off, there's the PATH system, the rail system. There's all of the seaports, and it's the World Trade Center complex, 16 acres World Trade Center complex that the Port Authority originally built. The Twin Towers opened up in 1973, and of course, the unfortunate disaster with 9/11. And now we rebuilt Freedom Tower, and we're rebuilding in this whole 16-acre complex here. So I share this with your audience to say that it is a huge organization, 8,000 employees, and between New York and New Jersey. And our focus is really around building world-class transportation infrastructures that allows the movement of goods and services in and out of our region. Our port system alone is probably the busiest port in the country right now. And pre-COVID, our airports, the 3 main airports combined, were close to being the busiest airport system in the country. So it's an organization that has over 24 different facilities, 8,000 employees, and is a real economic engine for not just this region, but for the country. And so having these big numbers, to your question, and having these opportunities, one of the things that we're guided by is how do we share in the economic growth and the economic wealth of this region, and how do we make sure that we have goals to hit for our minority and women-owned business communities. And so for most of the last, I want to say 15 or 20 years, we've had goals of 17% of the contract value should be directed towards minority and women-owned businesses. In 2018, the board decided that they were going to raise that to 30%. And so today we have for every contract that across all procurement categories, we have a designation of 30%, and that's broken down 20% MBE and 10% WBE. And so those are the goals. And as our executive director tells us often, this is not about effort. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game, and we have to show contracts that are going to minority and women-owned business, as well as service disabled veteran-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. And so my department is solely, singly focused on that. However, it is an agency goal, not just a D&I goal.
I think it's so important. I don't think many people understand that Port Authority of New York and New Jersey has made it their business to essentially have such greater percentage goals on contracts versus federal. Sometimes some of the federal scorecards are at like 5%, women-owned small business. Whereas I can be a great testament to the fact that we are actually going after a New Jersey Transit opportunity, and it fully says you have to have 22 or 25% DBE, or MWBE. So we're very, this is what he's saying is true. I'm a living testament of it. And so what I want to follow up and ask you, I have been HR business partner for EWR, the United, the United Terminal. I've been HRBP for JFK and LaGuardia. So yes, those three airports are monstrous, as they would say. And so what I love to look at is the big move that Port Authority has when it comes down to Terminal 8. There are some great moves when it comes down to MWBE T8 at JFK. So can you talk about some of the opportunities and how that applies to MWBEs?
Sure. And not just Terminal 8, but again, as you say, across the agency. But what's important is when you think about you're in HR, someone else might be in engineering, someone else might be in architect, someone else might be, in offering different types of services. And so what the Port Authority has embarked on is to say, let's just take the building of a new terminal. It has to be designed, it has to be constructed, it has to be operated, and it has to be maintained, right? And so, and these projects are mega projects, and they are often once in a generation project going up, and they're in the billions of dollars. And so, again, at our agency, one of the things we said in our procurement is that we want to make sure that that 30% is on the design, so that the architects and engineers have an opportunity. We want to make sure that is on the building piece of it, so that the contractors have an opportunity. We want to make sure it's on the operations, so that folks come in, whether they want to do airport concessions or they want to offer cleaning services, which I may just put a note that folks need to really look at some of these cleaning services, because these contracts run into the millions of dollars, or whether it's on the maintenance or the security guard service, technology services, all the things that you can think about that go into running a facility. We want to make sure that there's an opportunity for minority and women-owned business. So every single contract dollar amount will have that 30% stipulation on it. And as you mentioned, we're rebuilding JFK Airport, Terminal 8, Terminal 6. We're rebuilding LaGuardia Airport right now. So far, we've spent about $1.8 billion with minority and women-owned business on LaGuardia project. On the Newark project, which I'm very close to, we're rebuilding Newark Airport. A new terminal is going in at Newark Airport even as we speak. And our numbers, because we track our numbers, we're close to $460 million spent with minority and women-owned businesses at Newark Airport. And so we're going to continue to press forward and be as inclusive as possible. And we realize that in order to reach our numbers, sometimes it's important to do what we're doing now, make folks aware of it, to do the outreach, and to have, Christy, your testimonials over and over again to folks, like you can get certified, you can get opportunities. That's really important information to get out there. And I will say, having done these types of conversations, with various chambers of commerce and other folks, everybody is not always aware, and everybody is not always a fan, because they're not aware of some of the things that we're doing. And so it's important for us to get the message out there that we are serious about MWBE participation, and we want to do better.
That was such a loaded answer. I really appreciate that. It gave us a lot of insight in terms of, different areas where you are spending money. And the fact that you break it down by the design, the build, and the operations. I've usually only seen it in one component of, that proposal. But my question is, for primes who are going after these contracting opportunities, how are they encouraged to locate subcontractors to meet these 30% goals? Or like how can a small business who's interested in becoming a prime to actually interested in becoming a sub underneath that prime to help facilitate that 30%? How would a small business go by doing that?
That's a great question. There are a couple of ways. And let me start from when a prime wins a contract and a prime needs to bring subs on to meet their 30%. So there's a database that the Port Authority and a number of other agencies are part of called Business to Government, B2G. We certify the firms and we let the primes know that these are certified firms by the Port Authority in the disciplines that the prime could be looking to hire. We also, for every major project, we have several outreach events where we bring primes together with subcontractors. And just recently, we added to our website, if you go out on our website, www.panyj.gov, and you look under business opportunities and you look for construction, we have just added a place where subs can get to know primes. And so we say to the subcontractor, if you're interested in having a prime reach out to you on this particular contract, put your name in, put your email information in, list the sort of the scopes of work that you're really good at. And I would tell folks, don't try to list everything, but list what you're really, really good at. And so when the prime picks that up, then they can say, okay, I have somebody who can do concrete for me. I have someone who could do paving for me. I have someone who can give me electrical supplies or what have you. But now you're listed actually on the website, and then we audit the website to see if the primes are in fact going back and making those connections to the subcontractors. But every opportunity that we have, we're doing connections, we're doing outreach, and we have community outreach offices in Newark, in Elizabeth, at our bus terminal in Manhattan, near Kennedy Airport. And our teams are in those outreach offices. That's their main focus, making sure that we're connecting the subs with the primes. But what I will also say, what we're working on is the next big wave is how do we get more of the subcontractors to become primes?
That's
That's a good push.
And that means that we have to help them build capacity. We have to create opportunities for them. We have to figure out how do we unbundle some of the big contracts to make them smaller contracts so that they can work their way into growing their firms based on their ability to take on more and more contracts. But that's the name of the game, the primes and the subs. We have to all look at this, that we want to benefit collectively as a region, and let's figure out how we can do that.
Yeah, I really the unbundling, I got excited about that one because we always talk about, the requirements for prime contractors, these larger prime contractors to really work with small businesses, but sometimes the requirements that they have make it impossible for businesses to even meet these contracting opportunities as well. So I think that would be a huge opportunity. And I feel like some of the ways that you were going about doing it with the outreach events, that's something that I feel like is awesome. My next question, however, is geared towards type of things that the organization is purchasing in addition to, some of the commercial or the construction services. So we've talked about, everything that goes into the construction side of it, but what about administrative and professional services for those businesses who have those type of companies?
Yeah, so when you think about, 8,000 employees, there's lots of things that we need for our development from, folks who offer training, consultant services, to any other agency. We're in the same space that we would use those services as well. Sometimes there's an organization who's trying to think through, okay, what's the next project that I have to deliver, a strategic planning project. I need some help to do that. I know there are firms out there who can kind of get us started, help us do some benchmarking, help us put performance metrics, all those different things that you would see in any corporation or even in some municipalities. We need those services as well. And so the first thing I say to your audience is, you want to become familiar with, you want your services to be known by the Port Authority. And so we like for you to register as a vendor on the PA Procure. When you go in, it takes about 5 or 10 minutes, is www.paprocure.gov, and you register as a vendor and you list your services. And what that does is when any one of our departments is looking to bring someone in, they can make an inquiry to our procurement system, and they say, well, I'm looking for somebody who does HR training. I'm looking for someone who might do unconscious bias training, or I'm looking for someone to deliver a service. I want them in the New York area, or I want them in the Newark area, or wherever the facility is located. Your name will be in the system, and it will be generated, and then that makes you known to the buyer. And so again, when you think about the facilities that I mentioned, and then think about the products that are flowing through those facilities, and then think about what of those products are part of your supply chain. And I will tell you, we probably utilize it or need it or request it somewhere in the agency. So it really is important for your firm to be on our PA procurement list.
Aside from and we talked about this just a little bit, right? Being on the PA Procure list. I know 2 weeks ago, we had our call for a solicitation, right? The calls that we have before putting out, after a bid is put out and before you can, submit questions. And the biggest thing they talked about is the DBE certification.
Okay.
I think I will say this, Port Authority has done a great job by communicating to primes the importance of including those companies that have DBE certifications. What is the advantage of that? I think a lot of companies don't really understand how important it is. Last week we had, not last week, but the week before, the United States Department of Transportation, they talked a little bit about the DBE.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for the port, how important is it for companies to really pursue DBE?
It's very important, and I will say the distinction, for the most part, the Port Authority is for the most part a self-funding entity. So we don't receive tax dollars from either New York or New Jersey, but on some of our projects, we do receive federal funding. So for example, we just finished developing or repaving a runway at Newark Airport.
Mhm.
And the total cost of that was somewhere in the neighborhood, I want to say, of $84 million. We received some of those funds from the federal government, FAA, to do that. As you know, all of the airport system is under the control of the FAA. So we received some of those funds. Whenever entity receives federal funds, that's when the DBE part comes in. Because the federal government says that if you're going to receive these dollars, we want to make sure that a portion of these dollars go to DBEs or disadvantaged business enterprises. And to the heart of your question, why is it so important? We tell folks all the time, yes, you want to be certified as a WBE, you want to be certified as an MBE. That's wonderful. But to the extent that you can also get certified as a DBE, don't miss that opportunity, because federal projects are strictly focused on the DBE community. Now that might change in the future where they also open it up to MBE community, but for right now, they are focused on the DBE community. And so to the extent that you can get that certification, and the good news, when you come into the Port Authority to be certified, we offer that certification as well. So it's extremely important to do that. And we're always encouraging our folks, take the time. There's a little additional paperwork, but take the time to get that certification.
Just a tip, if you guys are applying for your MWBE, and especially if you do it with the port, you can 90%, I'll say about 80% of the documentation that you need for MWBE is probably going to be needed for your DBE. There's just a little tiny bit more extra paperwork, and it's 100% worth it, especially when there are solicitations out there that are pushing and saying, hey, we are giving first priority to DBEs. So that's Shakia.
I'm over here nodding my head and shaking and answering the questions. So happy I put it on mute because it'll sound like a maniac at this point. But all excellent like comments about the certification. The next question for me would be, when it comes down to, opportunities that are for small businesses and opportunities that are for minority owned businesses, do you have it set up in a separate manner? As if a business is not certified, how do they go after these opportunities as a small business? Do you have any like programs for those businesses, or prior to them getting certified as MBE or WMBE?
We try to encourage businesses to be certified. But as I mentioned before, if you're registered as a vendor on our PA Procure system, you don't necessarily have to be certified.
Mm.
Where the certification is really important is when we say to the primes, you must have 30% participation on this project. They don't get credit for any uncertified firms that they bring on the project. They only get credit for the certified firms. But if you're let's say you're offering supplies, pens, papers, pencils to our office services, and let's say that that's the space that you're in, and you're happy being in that space, and you have a price that's competitive. You can be in our register, PA Procure. We could utilize your services all day long, but you don't have to be certified for that. But we do encourage firms to be certified, because again, with these mega projects and the primes looking to get credit for it, they're going to be looking for folks that can help them. And the only way they'll get credit is to use a certified Port Authority firm, or a firm that's certified with New Jersey Transit, or a firm that's certified with the state of New York, so on and so forth.
Yeah, to keep everyone in loop, right? It really pertains to the type of business that you're in. So
Mhm.
depending on the service or the goods that you provide, if it is complex service that can lead to multi-million-dollar type of contracts, it is highly encouraged. But just as Dr. Wright was saying, if it is very simplistic, kind of like an RFQ, we just need a quote, we provide this types of goods, yeah, you can operate without it. However, it is advantageous for the agency and for everyone that you have those certifications. I think we've had all our questions. Is that
I have
correct?
one last
Okay,
question just
go
before we
ahead.
go.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Wright, this is the last question for me because I will continue to ask questions. But for
Sure.
businesses who want to go after government opportunities that don't require you to bid on them, so how do I become a preferred vendor as a small business with the Port Authority? So, and that's going after those micro purchasing threshold opportunities. And also, could you speak to that a little bit about the different thresholds for the Port Authority?
So yes, so when you one of the things that we worked on this year, and we like to give credit where credit is due. We saw early in the year, or maybe late last year, where one of our sister agencies, the MTA, announced a discretionary procurement process.
Mhm.
And what they were saying is that there are a number of firms out there who are just not participating in the opportunity. So how could we figure out a way to bring more inclusion and equitable outcomes to the process? And so our team, and it was a collective effort across the organization, from the executive director's office to procurement to engineering to ODI, aviation, path, and the like. We said that we want to be able to offer something similar. So we created the threshold to say that all projects that are 1.5 million or less on the professional services side, or 2.5 million or less on the construction side, we would put them in what we call a small contracts program.
Mhm.
And then we would go through, again, we would go through our database, we go through other databases, and we would want to make sure that we do have a adequate pool of firms that we could then offer these opportunities to. So part of it is, recognizing that everybody's not yet able to bid on say a $5 million contract, but
Mhm.
that doesn't prevent them from bidding on $1 million contract or a $1.5 million contract. And so we want to find ways to one, make that available, and then it's always going to be competitive. And so we'll establish those thresholds, but then the firms would have to put their best effort forward to win the actual bid. But the point is, into the earlier thing about unbundling some of the large contracts, and now we're saying, let's take a step further. Let's just have X number of contracts that we know there's a available pool of firms out there in the region that we can have them compete on these projects.
That's
That is
awesome,
such
right?
a that's an amazing approach. I love that. And this was really the first time that I've heard about this program. So that is exciting to really hear. Anytime we ever brought it up in the conversation, it always seemed like a revolutionary act. So huge commendation to you guys for that. That was an awesome move. Chrisley, did you have some last questions, or I think it's time for us to get some guest questions? Or
Yes, yes, question time.
Before you go there, I just want to make one
oh,
quick comment, congratulating you on the work that you're doing and getting this information out there. Because I want to say, while I'm proud of the work that we're doing, and I'm passionate about it, there are advocates for the MBE community that come to us, that provide us the feedback to say, here's what else you should be doing. And so while we listen to them and we take their feedback, I also want to give them credit for pushing us to do the things that we're doing. We have an MBE task force that is comprised of a number of different organizations, and they meet with us and our executive director on a monthly basis, and they tell us, they're not shy about saying, here's where you could do more, here's where you can do better. So I'm happy that you are excited about hearing this news, but I want to be completely honest to let you know that there are advocates out there who are also helping us to do the right thing.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know Shakia is trying to unmute herself to say thank you.
no. But I would say we would love to get in contact with those advocates. So I'm going to look at the council list today so we
Yeah,
can reach out to them, because that's huge, and it'll be really good conversation to have with the audience about how they were able to work together to develop that council to advocate for these type of opportunities. A lot of times we try to distance ourselves as it relates to getting into politics and owning a business and all of that aspect of it, but honestly it all ends up working together. So
And if you reach out to Cheryl, who put you in contact with me,
yeah,
she can give you the email addresses and the names of some of those folks that you can talk.
perfect.
Yeah, and I think Cheryl is on, but she had to call on because her Zoom isn't working.
Oh,
Um, but I believe Cheryl is on. I think she's like the last. I think.
okay. Well, she
But
will connect you.
where let's move on to the questions. I don't know, Shakia, you want to start with what's in the chat? I'll start with this one. It says, if I already am SDVOSB, which is
Service disabled, veteran owned
veteran,
small business.
yes. So if you're already service disabled, veteran owned small business certified, is a full application still required? Some entities have an alternative application for those already certified in that area.
Is a full application required for another certification, or is that the question?
I think it is for the DBE. So if they're already federally certified as a service disabled veteran owned small business, do they still have to apply? I know I think I know the answer, but I think you should answer.
Yeah, no, the answer is yes. So when you think about the different certifications, the SDVOB or small business, so at the Port Authority we have 6, right? We have small business enterprises, we have minority business enterprise, woman business enterprise, the service disabled, and then we have the DBE as well as the ACDBE, which is the airport concessions disadvantage. And so depending on what you offer, what your area expertise is, or what you're interested in, you want to have the certification that allows you to compete in that space. And so while a service disabled veteran owned business could in fact be a DBE business, it doesn't necessarily correlate to a DBE being able to be a service disabled veteran owned business.
Right.
Because that means you have to be in service, you have to be acknowledged that there was a disability, so on and so forth. So the fact that you have the SDVOB, that's good. I want to thank you for your service, but you do want to look at completing the DBE application. Again, like I said, when those federal funds are involved, DBE gets first cut at that.
And then here's just to also piggyback off of that question, because you have a veteran owned certification, do you accept the federal service disabled veteran owned one in lieu of the one that you all have?
Yeah, so we just launched ours. I want to say just before Veterans Day in 2019. So if you already have a designation in the region, we would look at that, but we would have to see who actually certified you on that. So I would ask your person to get in touch with us, our certification hotline, and I'll give you that information before we close, and we can take it from there.
Perfect. Have another question about the ACDBE certification.
Yes.
Someone is asking, they have a apparel company. They're asking, would they be able to get certified as ACDBE and have a location in the airport? Is that something?
No, that's a great question, and the answer is it's possible. And when I say it's possible, again, the ACDBE and the DBE, we're guided by federal guidelines in there. And so when you think about passing through the airport or any airport, you see food and beverages and you see retail. And so all those spaces are competitively, they're awarded as a result of competitive response to an RFP.
Yep.
And, while it sounds like I'm hedging my response, I'm really not. I'm saying that is a very different process to become an airport concessionaire that someone wants to give a lot of thought to. Because it's not like, you walk through an airport and you see a retail or for sale sign and you go in, you open up your business. There is a very long process responding to the RFP, making sure that you are capitalized to be able to do that. And then if you're fortunate enough to get in there, understanding that the business, running a business inside the airport is a lot different than running a business on Main Street. How do you get behind security? How do you get your product in there? Your hours have to be equal
Last
to
flight.
when the airport opened. The last flight. That's
Last
exactly
flight.
first flight out, last flight in. So it's something that I think more people should think about it. But it is a very, very, very intensive, labor intensive, time intensive process that you
Yeah.
want to.
I would say for anyone that is looking for the airport concession, so one of the companies that we did HR business partnership for is OTG Management, which is the food and beverage, everybody that goes to an airport that sees an iPad. And I will tell you, just the security clearance alone, that is not your average, walk on the street and walk in, buy something in the store. If you don't have a ticket, you also have to take into account recruiting, staffing. The people are going to be completely different. Having your stuff, there isn't a regular dock, right? The dock is next to the planes. So there's so many different factors in working in Terminal C. And, things you have to consider is to get from the back of your store to the front of your store might take you 3 minutes. To get from the dock Terminal C on that side to get to your store can take you 30 minutes walk across trying to. So there's so many different things, and it is extremely competitive. My point and tip would be extremely unique on what you offer and cater it to a specific niche. I think what made OTG very successful in the airports is they created restaurant luxury concepts within an airport. So you don't feel like you're at an airport, you feel like you're in the city, right? So definitely, and they brought different types of cuisine. So be very strategic. Don't just say, I want to sell t-shirts, right? What can your t-shirts do for me while I'm flying?
Exactly.
So those are some of the tips that I would say.
And I think I have one final question. And this one is pertaining to doing business with your DBE certification. So this was a comment off of YouTube. Someone said, how do they wait if they need to get some information about the DBE certification? Who do they contact?
So again, when you go to our Port Authority website, www.panyj.gov, there's a lot on our website, so let me say that to you up front. But look for business opportunities, and then you'll see how do I become certified. And you click on that, you can start the process. But for your listeners right now, I can also give you it's www.panyjsd.com. That will take you right into the supplier diversity certification process, and you can get started there.
And I would say once you get started with the DBE, that moment that you start like applying for DBE, the great thing that they do, I know a lot of people have done their federal certifications and they get upset because they're like, well, what's the status? What's the status? They give you a 30-day acknowledgement letter saying, hey, we acknowledge we received it. In the next 30 days, we'll be reviewing. And they give you the email address to the person reviewing your application. So you can have the back and forth conversation like, hey, my lease expired, I need to get a new lease, or all your documentation just to review and to make sure everything is copacetic.
And this is my final question. I think I said that the last time, but I promise for real, this is it. And this is for all of our startup founders, people who are innovative in creating new technologies and solutions. How do they introduce these type of technologies or products or services or anything that makes something innovative, something new that can support the Port Authority? How do they go through the process of, introducing their products to you?
So again, it's the same thing. They want to be on the PA Procure. And so again, you have a business, you want people to be aware of your business. The only way we can become aware of your business is you put yourself in front of us by being in our database. And then when we're doing our different outreach sessions, you want to be part of those outreach sessions, and you want to come up to myself or anybody from the Port Authority and say, hey, here's what I'm offering, and I think someone in your aviation department or someone in your PAF department would benefit for this. Can you direct me to the right person to have that conversation with? And so it's, it you have to put yourself in position to have those conversations. And the easiest way is to register yourself on PA Procure. But the other thing, not but, and you want to make sure that you stay engaged and stay involved. And so spending time on our website, attending events like this where you're bringing information to them directly, all that's part and parcel of growing your business.
And I would say the last big thing when I look at working with Port Authority, also their website is extremely user friendly, which all of us have had issues in the past, right, with registering our business. So when you go and you look for the opportunities, like the solicitations that are open right now, for example, under professional like services, they actually have a button where if the solicitation is out, you can actually click and say like, you want to be added as a certified Port Authority subcontractor.
That's correct.
Right. So like you can put yourself out there for a specific solicitation by simply filling out a form before you have to go and write a 60-page solicitation and possibly not even be included. So I definitely say look at the opportunities that are on their website prior to reaching out, to Dr. Wright or Cheryl and making sure that you know which opportunities you want to tackle first.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
All right.
Well, that is it. This has been a really engaging, really informative session or episode. And we're so excited to get this out on all of the different podcasting mediums. So it will be on YouTube, Dr. Wright. It'll also be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere people are listening to podcasts. So they are going to replay this episode. The episode with the Department of Transportation, for us being a new podcast, we end up getting like 160 something listens on that podcast with, it was super exciting. So definitely happy to be able to share this information with the community and have individuals like yourself who are, so open to coming and sharing your insight with us. So thank you so much for coming with us today.
You're quite welcome. And if I may ask, who did you have from the USDOT? Was it Shelby?
No, we end up having Adriana Clark from the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. So she's the director of the Southeast region.
Awesome.
So she
Awesome.
came on and it was a really good episode. It was episode 2. So basically almost back to back.
And the reason why I asked is because just recently, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, a colleague of mine at MTA, Mike Gardner, called a number of us together from different agencies to address this issue as a collective. How do we increase opportunities? So we're not in competition. We're really trying to collaborate. And so we've had Bradley Mims on from the from the FAA, and we're going to have other folks on our calls. But the reason why we get together every week is to make sure that we can share best practices and share ideas and work together on it. So I'm glad to see that your podcast is bringing a number of different folks to get in front of your audience. So congratulations to both of you again, and I appreciate you giving the Port Authority opportunity to participate.
Absolutely. Anytime. And trust me, this will happen again. And hopefully, cross our fingers, post-COVID, it can be more of an in-person session.
Sure. Sure.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining everyone that is on our Black Bunker, our GovLEA students. Thank you for joining us on this episode. We are honored to have the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey have us. Again, my name is Chrisley Julian or Chrisley Ganthier, depending on what day. And I am the founder of the Black Bunker, a strategic masterclass for minority businesses trying to do business at a federal, city, and state level. Shakia?
I'm Shakia Kegler, the founder and CEO of GovLEA, simplifying and increasing outreach to minority-owned businesses. So again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, turn the notifications on because we go live. Well, we have episodes that come out every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. interviewing business owners, government buyers, government employees, professionals who are very knowledgeable in the government contracting space, and then also prime contractors who do business with subcontractors about how to work with them. So again, super excited to have this episode. We will catch you guys next week. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can always drop them in the chat or reach out to us on social media. And that is it. Peace.
Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. I really appreciate you joining us.
You're welcome. Take care
And
now.
thank you, Cheryl. I know you're on, but you're muted. Thank you as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. I'm sorry. I was too busy trying to cut everything.